Welcome everyone to the XPAND podcast. This is your host, Zarin Beatty, and I'm in here with a person who is extremely well versed in the health industry, Kris Gethin.
Thank you very much for having me here, buddy. Really appreciate it. Good to connect again.
Yeah, of course. You came into the Float Center a few months ago, had your first float. How was that?
It was great. I've had a couple since. I'd say the first time I felt a little bit of anxiety to begin with because, of course, whenever you're trying to meditate or clear your mind, because you're so used to it being full with conference calls or discussions or deadlines, when you actually empty it, especially if you're not active at the same time. You know, we can all go for a run and do like a form of active meditation, but when you're there in complete silence, weightlessness, and it's dark, that's another form of complete emptiness. So the first time, there's a little bit of anxiety there, but the second time is when it felt that much better. And I'm sure as I continue to do it when I can, it will get better and better. And I brought my fiance in to try it as well. And the first time she felt the same thing, a little bit of anxiety, but she loved it. But she just wasn't able to completely relax and sleep, I should say. Not anxious, but wasn't able to sleep. Second time I slept.
That's an extremely common first float experience. And we actually say to 9 out of 10 people that come through, the third time's the charm. Because the first time is such a brand new experience, you don't really know what to expect. That second time you've done it before, and that third time's the kicker. People just kind of find that sweet spot and sink right in.
Yeah, I could imagine. You know, it's just like with anything. Is when you ask people if they meditate, no one puts their hands up. But if you ask them if they've meditated before, everyone puts their hands up. Yeah, it's tough. You got to stick it out and learn a new way of thinking or not thinking to adjust, you know, just like with anything that we do. But some people just find something like that a little bit difficult, and it could take months to master meditation, maybe years, you know, so you just have to, you know, give it that due course of time to settle in.
So you mentioned kind of like a movement meditation. It's very easy to go on a run and kind of hit that flow state or be cranking out reps and really find that system within your system that just kind of goes. Do you meditate outside of the gym?
Yeah. All the time. So I like to run in the hills. I like to cycle in the hills and on the road. And, you know, a lot of the time I'll go without headphones. When I'm running, I'm just listening to the sound of my feet underneath the dirt or on top of the dirt. I'm focusing on my torso as being like a pivot, holding a sphere in my stomach. It can't fall out, and I'm focusing on that to help me keep my posture, so I keep my diaphragm high. And I'm trying to be light on my legs because I'm about 220 pounds. I'm a little bit heavier for a runner, so I need to do everything that I can to make it a smooth transition. So I meditate myself into that process, and I find it's very, very calming. And I'll do that on a bike as well. Funnily enough, I can actually become so much more calmer and into a meditative flow when I'm on the road bike, even though there's cars going past me, as opposed to mountain biking, because I guess I'm focusing on the ruts, the corners, the stones, where I'm just out there. And sometimes I've gone to the Oregon border there and back. That's like 110 miles, and it's just so peaceful. It's just beautiful.
How do you feel like that ability to sustain focus on one aspect for a long duration of time, how does that transfer into other aspects of your life?
Well, I remember when I was in school, and like I think every school report said Kris is easily distracted. So, and I know that, so I work a lot harder. I have to work a lot harder than the average person. So I wish I could be smarter, but I'm just not. I have to work at it. So if I read a page of a book, sometimes I don't understand it and I have to go back and read it several more times until it gets in. I'm not going to flip the page or get to the end. And, you know, in this day and age of, Instagram, social networks, people are no one's present. A lot of people aren't present. I'm generalizing, obviously. And people are very easily distracted. You know, when you sit at a restaurant with someone, you go to the toilet, or God forbid, you better get the phone out because you can't just sit there in silence and people watch. So I just find by practicing that form of discipline when I'm active, when I'm cycling, when I'm running, or whatever it may be, helps me then at other times when I should be on the computer trying to get through a lot of editing, articles or whatever it may be, because I just notice with people around me and myself, when you're trying to get into the work or you're writing a book or whatever it is, that it's easy to get out and then get back in, get out and get back in. I like to get in there and stay there.
That's enormous. I did a 10-day Vipassana meditation course a couple of years ago, and it's essentially a 10-day silent retreat. There's no speaking, there's no sound, there's no eye contact. And you're meditating for 10 hours a day, 10 days in a row. And one of the biggest transitions that I noticed post-experience was when I was reading, I was able to catch my attention leave the page before it left the page. So just getting quicker and quicker at honing that back into where you actually are. It's so essential. And I believe that it's building in an attribute or a skill set that is embodying in our character that we bring with us wherever we go. And the things that we can build that we actually bring with us, I can build that in the gym. I can build that while meditating. I can build that while having a discussion with you right now. So those are the things that I kind of find more valuable than others. But it's really cool to kind of watch these aspects transition and cross-transfer into multiple aspects of our life.
Yeah, they definitely have a transcendent effect. A lot of people may look at me and say, why are you doing that? But I'm not doing that specific thing for that purpose. I'm doing it for the transcendence purpose, for it, into other things. That's why I like to, get comfortable being uncomfortable in some certain things, because I know it'll have a transcendence effect on those times that usually come by surprise and hit you hard, and you're better able and armored to deal with it.
How do you help people kind of see that broader picture of why they should work out or why they should get healthy? It's not just because you need to eat better food, but there's an actual ripple effect from that choice, from that decision that truly blossoms into other aspects of your life.
Yeah, for me, I can tell you how it definitely helped me. And, I work out. Of course, you want to look good, you feel good, but the vanity aspect is definitely not my primary mover. It's therapeutic. Some people get it from meditation. Some people get it from yoga. Some people get it from boxercise classes. I definitely get it from physical activity, whether it be weight training, cycling, swimming, whatever. Definitely weight training. That's my pivotal role. And the one thing that I try to get through to people's head is like, this isn't about your pecs or your biceps or your delts. That's not going to get you to 100 years old, but your heart is, and your mental state will. And if this is therapeutic to you, then you should do it. However, just look at the advantages of what weight training or quote unquote bodybuilding does. It isn't about just building your biceps. It's building your confidence, your bone density, your heart health, your discipline. Because when you wake up at a certain time to go do your cardio or hit the gym or eat your meals, then that will create discipline in so many other areas in your life, whether it be with your relationship or your career or otherwise. And it just, like, for me, life would be a white knuckle ride if I didn't have that, So I know where I've come from. And, I used to race motocross many years, for like 12 years, and that became part of my identity. So when I lost that, I went down a path of drugs and alcohol and partying, and I was dealing with back issues. And to get alleviated of that pain, I started doing physio, which helped me then. And I started feeling better. All of a sudden, I'm getting better blood flow to my brain. I'm retaining content that I hadn't before. So, bodybuilding has so much more to offer other than standing on stage in your posing pants is what people deem it to be.
That improved blood flow is essential for health. Not just physical well-being, but that mental cognition,
For sure.
man.
It's your AA batteries.
100%. And floating actually does help improve the circulation of, our synovial fluid and our blood flow and just our body's function. And I know, so I've learned a lot from Onnit in terms of like the joint mobility aspects and really opening up, our ranges of motion from our true foundation. not just lifting overhead because we think we should be lifting overhead, but truly engaging the proper muscle tissues to really push overhead safely. And all of these different components, I'm working on that foundation to kind of start inward and expand outward. It's so huge. It's you said that you have a retreat coming up here very soon in Sun Valley, Idaho, and it is from October 9th through the 13th.
Correct.
What aspects will you be talking about, sharing? What are some of the points that people can look forward to? How's that retreat kind of being put together for people?
Well, I do understand a lot of my followers are into just building muscle, but it comes with so much more than that. That is just one of the entities that I practice and what I teach. And so I decided to put together this retreat because a lot of people want to work out with me and get educated by me, not just by what I put out online. And, I have to facilitate a lot of the content that I put out there for my followers because not all of them are interested in like grounding or breath work or meditation or the sunlight. But it's very, very important, even though we wouldn't live without fluid or the sunlight or that circadian rhythm that a lot of people don't tap into because we're always exposed to artificial light, for instance. So it gives people the justification to stay up until 2-3 a.m. So I really I thought, what am I going to call this? And I really don't know. So that's why I say it's a bodybuilding and biohacking retreat that has health, fitness, nutrition, supplementation, anti-aging, hybrid athleticism, absolutely everything I'm trying to encompass within this retreat. So we have some great other instructors in there that helps with guided movements. Like you said, you're doing a shoulder press, but are you doing it correctly? So this instructor will help you with that. We will have myofascial release, stretching. A lot of the seminars that I will do on a daily basis is, like I said, what I mentioned there. But I'm going to be putting people through workouts. It's not just a chill out at the hotel and at the Zenergy Health Club, excuse me, for a few days. It's going to be tough, but it's going to be life-changing. And I'll be starting the day with a very light form of yoga and meditation to help them set the day, get into that meditative process, then finish that with manifestation of what they want to create that day into their lifeline. A lot of people think of themselves or make these thoughts externally instead of making it a part of them to create, to manifest, to believe, to achieve. It's maybe something that they write down, but they've written it down, not really listening what they're writing down. They're just hearing it because someone told them to do it.
100%.
So trying to create that thought into a reality. And, this is something that I want people to go home and go, okay, I don't need Kris anymore. This is all the information that I need. However, the hardest part is obviously the application because we have so many students of learning. There's so many books out there, but they're all useless unless you apply them.
Spoken like a true coach, man. Spoken like a true coach.
I guess I've written a couple of books as well, and done some programs, and so many people take them in, but they never really apply it. And maybe my book or my article or my program is not for them. But this is just for an intimate group that are obviously a little bit more loyal, hardcore followers, and that they're serious. So they actually have to go through an application process, and once we feel that's a good fit, then of course we accept.
It's a beautiful mindset to be able to approach not a customer or a client, but another human being in the aspect of, I want to help you so you don't need me anymore. It seems to be popping up more and more in our industry and culture, thankfully, because it seems to be people have tried to just linger along the line and keep people on this thread of knowledge, and instead of truly helping them help themselves. And I love that you are incorporating meditation at this retreat, man. That's so incredible. And it's what people need more of, even just a glimpse of what it is. And that visceral experience on how they can actually access that state. And meditation is very different for a lot of different people. And we can access meditative states through completely different activities. So to help people just get that spark going and to help them embody their words or their goals instead of just writing things down or vocalizing some words that they've heard before, that's one of the biggest problems I see with people. And it's to no fault of their own. It's just most people don't seem to really know how to ground into what they're actually feeling. Because when we start to feel what we're feeling, what comes up? Fears, insecurities, all of these different components that in return are handled through meditation, journaling, reflection, or even in the gym.
Yeah, 100%. And I've always liked the sense of urgency. There's an end date there, but this is like, for instance, the boot camp for the rest of your life. So when I had my first gym back in when I was living in Australia from 2000 to 2005, and I bought a gym in 2002 there. And I didn't offer personal training. I had kickboxing in there on one side, and I teach like Muay Thai kickboxing. And on the other side, it was personal training, but I only offered 12 and 18-week packages. 18-week mostly for people that were obese, and 12-week for anyone else, because I didn't want them to have that dependability of, okay, I could sign up for a year or anything like that. It's like you have, for instance, let's say, and again, I'm generalizing, you have a 12-week package and we're only training one muscle group per week. You only have now 12 shoulder workouts to completely change the shape of your shoulders. Same with your legs, same with your arms. So it really gets the best out of people because there's that sense of urgency. And then you don't need me after that. You've got everything that you need if you're able to be accountable to yourself. You know, accountability is a big part of it. Not everyone can train without a coach. I do understand that. But for the most part, they can. And of course, I want those before and after pictures. That's great marketing for me. But at the end of the day, I'm providing something, a service for them that should hopefully change them.
I haven't heard of many people approaching it that way. That's a very honest way to kind of get people not through the door, but through the door into the other side, and to really help put them on a completely different platform in a couple months. That's incredible. You how long have you done Muay Thai?
I only did it for 3 years.
Yeah.
I did 3 years, and you know, we had people that would take to the ring to fight, but the majority were people that would come in and just do the classes because, yeah, boxing, you utilize a lot of energy, but you utilize about 70% of your energy, your aerobic system, your oxygen through your legs. So as soon as you start kicking, using your obliques, using your flexors, your quads, that would expire a lot of energy, and you know, people would get great results from doing, you know, the kickboxing classes, mostly for toning up, weight loss, getting in shape, performance, etc.
I've done Muay Thai for like 7-8 years.
Oh wow!
Yeah, so
You do it here in Boise?
I train just with myself now, but I trained in Thailand for a bit, trained in Vegas, and I had some coaches that trained in Vegas that are local. But so I definitely understand the aspect of kicking. It's exhausting.
Yeah.
Especially when you've never really lifted your legs above your hips before, and you start to get into those motions and timing the breath and taking impact and dishing impact and learning how to squeeze and still exhale with force and really kind of keeping your system grounded but explosive in the same exact moment. So I love that kind of stuff.
Yeah. It is so tough. A lot of people would look at something Muay Thai as being very aggressive, using elbows and knees and grappling, where I would just look at it as a great what's a word that I'm looking for? It's just a great support network for actually training, because a lot of people just want to do straight weight training, where you're working, your primary muscle groups that just, you know, work from your insertion to your origin. But then when you work in your assisting muscle groups and your secondary muscle groups, it really does help prevent injury. And I just find it gave people a lot more longevity, and they're able to perform in the gym much more intently with intensity because their cardiovascular system is so much fitter. So instead of having to rest for like 3 minutes after a squat session, 45 seconds, you're ready to go again.
And it builds such a unique form of confidence outside of just weightlifting. Because if you really do learn how to defend yourself, plus you're gaining cardiovascular strength and endurance, that confidence in women I see especially all the time, it really does skyrocket. It's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, I might have to employ you to train my fiance.
Yeah, I'd be honored.
She really needs to get into that because I know she has some insecurities when she's outside by herself. And I think something like that would be great. And we've gone to a couple of places in Boise to try to sign her up. But, it's going to have to be something that she really wants to do. And I think she's just not that, we talk about going to the gym and, you feel intimidated. And I think she's a little bit intimidated going into a group setting and having to do that,
Yeah, there's pros and cons to both, right? There's pros and cons to couple sessions or individual sessions or even group. And I love the dynamic of group sessions because when someone else sees another person working hard, then they usually will step it up. But that one-on-one contact is super helpful too.
Yeah, for sure.
Excuse me. So you have an incredible background, man. And I didn't know that you were into martial arts, so that just completely expands this even more so. What are some of the most important fundamental aspects that you can help somebody just gain a recognition on how to actually improve their health or how to become aware of where they are so that they know where they're growing from? Where do you really come from when you offer advice to people in the health industry or world, or really just kind of getting a better understanding on who they are?
Well, I honestly think the vast majority of us are blinded by society, by marketing. And it's not until it's too late or we've had a major health scare that people start to listen. Like I was just talking to two people that I know very well in Wales, that one of them has just been struck with lung cancer, the other one emphysema, both from smoking. And they have tried to give up smoking. One smoked for 30 years, the other one smoked for over 10 years. And they've tried to give up smoking so many times. The second that they had this news, they gave up smoking. So it goes to show they always had the power within themselves to give up, always. They just never did. They didn't want it bad enough. And what I really try to do is tell people that you now, right now, especially living in this country, because I have businesses in third world countries, I see what people have to go through. Some of them will never see the inside of a gym. Some people will never be able to have a meal on their plate where they have the opportunity to say, oh, this is boring. Yet we do. We can get, our organic chicken breast, we can have our rice, we can have the rainbow on our plates, yet we'll complain about that. We'll waste food. And, we'll hit the snooze button because we can't be bothered to get up to the gym or go out and just go for a walk and get outside. So this is the one thing that I try to get into people's heads, is that this experience that is phenomenal that you are experiencing right now is not going to last that much longer, because we get to the end of 2019 and go, wow, where did that year go? Well, guess what, that goes quick. I'm 45 years old now, and I'm like, how on earth has this happened? So I'm doing everything that I can to slow it down, be present, enjoy this conversation, remember this conversation and every other experience that I have. And being physical is part of that, because when we get to 90, 100 years old, we still want to be able to seek adventure and be mobile. We don't want to be staring outside of a window because we've lost our health and our mobility. And obviously every decision that we make every single day, dependent on what is in the cup in front of me or what's on the plate, is going to heal me or harm my future. And you have to make that cognitive decision every day that you should want to heal your future for yourself, for your loved ones, for your family, everybody, because kids learn by observation. And what do we do when kids come round? We're like, hey, would you like a cookie? Would you like some chocolate? Thinking that we're doing them good, but we're possibly giving them a shorter lifespan than us. And shame on us for actually doing that. So I really try to get into people's heads when they come to me and they hey, yeah, I want to get in great shape. I want to compete in a bodybuilding show. I want to compete in an ultra marathon. Then I try to get into the nuts and bolts of why they want to do it, because you see an endurance athletes eating pizzas, burgers, drinking alcohol, because as an example, we will look at someone that's obese and we'll be very judgmental towards them. It's nature of the beast, we are. However, we could see an ectomorph who eats burgers and fries and drinks alcohol, and they're possibly doing as much, if not more, damage to themselves. But we'll never pass judgment to that person because we're visual beings, you know. So that is one of the fundamentals that I really try to get in before we even start setting goals. You know, start educating them then on that process and start setting those goals before their external goals come into fruition.
You nailed it. You nailed it. It's that's one of the most important beginning stages to rerouting your life and to truly understanding the consequences of choice or decisions. And choice is unconscious and conscious choice.
Sure.
And when we can start to actually recognize what output is coming from our own input, whether it's subconscious or conscious, that is a completely different topic, in my opinion. But to really understand our environments and what's influencing who we are and how that is determining how we even behave is enormous, man. Why is that the beginning step for you? Why does that overweigh or outweigh just working out or just getting into the gym?
Because people in my industry are really unhealthy. We may look great, you know, may look healthy, may be able to run a marathon, but doesn't mean that that's healthy, that's good for you, because a lot of people within my industry use that as a justification to cheat, diet really hard for a photo shoot or for a bodybuilding show, and then go the other way. The whole time they're thinking, I cannot wait to finish this 12-week transformation, get my pictures done so I can just eat everything. Or then, you know, a lot of females, they'll diet so hard because they're looking at Instagram and they're comparing themselves to other people. So they're dieting hard, dealing with insecurities, messing up their thyroid, their metabolism, their health, all for the sake of that visual concept that society feels is perfect. There's a lot of pressure out there, and it's getting worse and worse. As we see more of these social platforms come about, I see more insecurities that affect people's health. I'd say the people that go to McDonald's the majority of the time are probably more secure within themselves than the people within the fitness industry. There's a lot of insecurities there. And I really try to home in on people's health. Like I said, whether it be with the training, nutrition, supplementation, then the sunlight, the hydration, the grounding themselves, making sure if they are in an office all day, then, you know, possibly they're blocking some of that artificial light. And then they have to get some of the infrared light because they have to hack their environment because they have no choice. You know, it's all dependent on that person's lifestyle, is dependent on how far they have to take it in order to regain their health. Because I'll always ask someone, or when I do my seminars, how many of you had your oil changed this year or changed your tires on your car over the past couple of years? Everyone puts their hands up. How many of you had your hair follicle tests, your blood reports, your food allergy tests, maybe ancestral tests, whatever it may be? Hardly anyone puts up their hands. So they're telling me that their vehicles are more important than themselves. That is much more powerful. So I'll put this analogy in front of them. Imagine right now that you have the most amazing mansion that you could ever dream of. It's got the pasture. It's got you've got your garden that you grow. I don't know, your herbs, your vegetables. You've got the view. Maybe it's an ocean view. Maybe it's the Sawtooth Mountains. And then every single day, you start smashing out some of the windows. You start tearing up the floorboards, burning the curtains, taking off the roof tiles, destroying the garden. That would be complete insanity. and you'd probably get locked up for it maybe. But we do it to something much more valuable that we can never get back, that we can never rebuild if it becomes too late. And that's our body. That's our lifeline. It's our carcass, our vessel. But we do that with the decisions that we make every single day. And I want people to understand what we're really, really doing to ourselves and the people around us. So that's why I feel it's very important to get people to think a little bit more consciously, as opposed to, like you said, the majority of our thoughts are subconscious.
It's incredibly refreshing to hear you talk about health in this way, especially from your career choice and your experiences and your current position being very into the industry. Because I have felt this way for the past 8 years, and I experienced it with myself. I used to be all into supplements, all into these aspects of just, without even knowing it, just trying to appear healthy. And
a lot of those supplements were probably maybe on special. It's like, okay, it's promotion. Great, I'll take that. Yeah.
Jack 3D, all that that shit, man.
I'll screw up your adrenal glands for a few years.
Dude, it's insane, man. It fucking destroys your body. And I started to really have these recognitions on, there's a big difference in seeming like you're healthy and actually being healthy. And running this company and this business, there's a huge difference in seeming like you're successful and actually being successful. And you see that on Instagram. You see that with entrepreneurs who just talk about what the fuck you should do.
With nothing tangible to actually prove. But they're teaching other businesses how to run their business without even having one themselves.
It's so profound. It's insane. And so I've been able to really see these themes pop up in different industries just from people in general. And that's why I really do my best to hone in on the foundation and your environment and these attributes, because this is what we actually can build. That if we focus on that, the rest should blossom as it should blossom. I'm not trying to build from this imaginary future that's 14 steps in front of me. How do I even get to that point? I'm trying to jump months and potentially years of work and build something that's not even rooted in anything. So it's cool, man. It really is refreshing to hear your point of view on this, and to hear that you're actually doing something about it, and you're floating and you're meditating. Not everybody does that. Not everybody talks about that. And it's one thing to even say you do it. It's another thing to actually be doing it. And I really do believe that people vibrate a certain way when they actually do meditate, rather than just talking about it. Or if they actually hold a successful organization or company, or they just talk about it. There's a very different form of frequency that comes from people, from within people. And the more we actually ground in on what's happening, the more gravity that frequency actually builds and can push and pull. And there's a big difference there. And you hold that, man. I can feel it in you.
Well, I'm beginning to hold it. I feel that this is just the beginning. You talk about meditation. I'm anywhere near as good as I'd like to be. I've only really just started doing it, because you start and then you stop and then you start, and I'm trying to remain consistent now, even if it's just for 8 minutes. A lot of it is guided. That helps me a lot, whether it be coming from an app or Emily Fletcher of Ziva Meditation. I've had her on the podcast before. I like her style of meditation. I'll swap and change every now and again. But yeah, the application is obviously the hardest part. To talk about it, that's very easy. I'm nowhere near as good as I'd like to be, but that's what I love about what we do. It's an obsession. It's a healthy obsession. I remember my dad used to say to me when I was trying to put on weight years ago, I'd sit back in my seat to try to open up my stomach so I could eat more food. It's like, yeah, you're obsessed. I'm like, yeah, I am. But now that obsession has changed, obviously, with age, because I'm thinking, what can I do now to ensure that whatever I'm doing right now, I can still do in 40 years' time? Because, to a certain degree, like I've had stem cells. I went to Colombia earlier in the year and had stem cells in areas of my body that I know that I'm going to continue to punish. It'll be my knees, it'll be my elbows, it will be my shoulders. But I want to use that, not wait until I have those issues. I want to use it as a preventative measure. And of course, I do suggest that there is a low-hanging fruit. You can follow the intermittent fasting to get a lot of those stem cells into your system naturally. Same with, like I said, the hot and cold therapy. People talk about taking a lot of growth hormone and testosterone. Well, have you gone for the low-hanging fruit there with your healthy supplementation with your food and the heat that can help regulate a lot of your natural growth hormone and
the heat shock proteins.
Heat shock proteins, yeah, for sure.
It's the real deal, man. We talked about that we're bringing a Wim Hof workshop into town next month.
I tell you what, I so hope that I'm here for that and available. I'd love to do that.
It's gonna be incredible. She's an incredible instructor. She's a really good friend, and she's gonna bring it. She's gonna bring the heat and the cold.
And it's off over 2 days?
It's a 1 day, 7 hour.
1 day, 7 hour. Okay.
So it's a full-blown workshop.
That's full on.
And so from what she was telling me, we're going to repeat. She's going to give, of course, it's 7 hours. That's a long time to give somebody information. But we're going to get a really heavy dose of the information and then repeat the cycle about 4 to 6 times. Just in and out, just really get that system acclimated and adapting and shocked over and over again, and of course a safe and healthy and sustainable manner.
Yeah, because like I couldn't imagine myself doing 7 hours because I've never done anything
For
near that. So I'm wondering, like, what is the prior experience needed to get into something like that? Is there any? If so, I need to start practicing a lot before going into this.
Well, you mentioned that you were doing some Wim Hof breathing yesterday.
Yeah, with Laird Hamilton. Yeah, that was part of the breathing technique that we were doing. And it's funny, just going back, actually, it made me think, I'm just changing gears here, because you said we look too far into the future of where we need to go as opposed to being present and taking those baby steps right now to lead to that future achievement that we see. When I was doing a part of Laird Hamilton's XPT yesterday, he had me go across the bottom of his pool in a width, holding dumbbells, where I had to put one dumbbell in front of the other with my hands and just let my legs drag. And I got to one end, I had to come up for air, and then I turned around, came back, had to come up for air, and then he said, okay, now what I want you to do is go one end and come back. And I tried that several times. I was only able to get to one end. I'm like, this is no way I can do this. And he said, okay, let's stop. Let's bring this down. We started doing very, very deep breath, facing the sun, having the sun shine through our eyelids. And at that time, he said, now, don't think, okay, if I get across this side fast, I'll be able to then get back here because I've only got so much breath in my lungs. He said, no. You never think of where you're going. You think of the step. I just want you to think about going at a pace needed just to complete a task. That task may not be going there and back. It may be there, and it may be there and coming back halfway. Don't think about where you're going. Just think about one dumbbell going in front of the other, and let's see where it leads. I got there and back, and when I came up, I wasn't even gasping for air. It was immense. All within like a 3-minute transition based on that breath that we don't think about because it's we don't think about it consciously. We subconsciously think about it because we just breathe and we gasp when we need to. Mm-hmm. And just by regulating that breathing, and you have no choice when you're in water, it just provided me with so much value of thinking, yeah, We just need to think about the steps taken today in order to lead to the future. However we treat today is going to dictate what happens tomorrow and the day after that and where we are 5, 10, 15, 30 years from now. So anyway, I just wanted to shove that.
That's
that
beautiful.
One in there.
Man, when we're able to, this is actually one of my favorite topics right here. When we're able to tap into a level of perception where time slows down, the possibilities are endless. Whether it's holding your breath or floating, or you start to down regulate your nervous system into the parasympathetic state and really just perceive what's going on without thinking, without separating yourself from that moment, or whether you're in the cold exposure, you want to be thinking about getting out of that water. That's that natural response or reaction to that scenario. But if you can hone in on the body's sensation, on what's going on, man, that moment holds worlds. It holds an endless amount of time just through your perceived perception. And if you can really be in that level of awareness, you can be in that pool with that going there and back almost effortlessly. That is so intriguing to me, to access those levels of states of awareness, man, and to experience it viscerally. So it opens up, it unlocks those parts in a person's ability. It's so cool.
Yeah, very cool. And it's amazing. When I first got there, Led's talking about the importance of breath, and I'm like, yeah, I understand that. And I'd seen him do a lot of these workouts in the water. I'm like, I'm a good swimmer.
Insane.
I know how to train. How hard can it be? It was so difficult because we do not breathe properly, where he's obviously mastered that. And it just makes you feel a little bit inadequate when you can't do it to begin with. But obviously it comes with practice. So even though you may look at this and go, well, I need to practice more in water. No, you can practice out of water. And one of the things that he suggests is that you fill your mouth with water and then just do your activity, do your workout, walk around the house with the water in your mouth so you can learn to breathe through your nose and regulate your breathing. And he said the Native Americans used to, when one of them was tested to become a warrior, they had to run 60 miles with the water kept in their mouth. They had to run or walk, but it was 60 miles. That's an ultra marathon with the water in the mouth. Once they got to wherever they had to go, or maybe it was a big circle, I don't know, they had to show that they had that water still in their mouth. Can't fake that.
Yeah, you can't fake that. What discipline?
Yeah, for sure. You know,
what presence?
But it's amazing what the body can achieve if the mind is aligned, isn't it? A lot of the time, the body gives out because the mind has.
How do you really help strengthen the mind to be able to endure running 60 miles with water in your mouth without drinking that water, without allowing your desires or to succumb to these wishes or whatever that you want to call them that separate you from what's actually being felt? So I've been down to Peru and have experienced Mother ayahuasca multiple times, and one of my times down there, I was noticing that I was having desires to see people back in the States, or to see this person, or just to truly separate myself from the moment, even though it was a beautiful moment. And that would trigger me to text or send a message or something, because it was feeding that desire. But with a little more control and self-awareness, you can bring that back in and still absorb time. And it seems to be, if we have an ability to be actually within time, then we can sustain anything. It's when we try and run from time itself or speed time up that, in my personal experiences, it seems to be much easier to drink that water or to follow that desire.
Yeah, that's very, very powerful. I haven't experienced ayahuasca, so I can't really relate. I know all about it. I'm actually going to be heading down to Costa Rica in December, just before Christmas. There, that will be my first experience. I've actually had to do a lot of soul searching myself. I felt like you had to be called for it, as opposed to just because someone says do it, that you should do it. I just and
Completely agree.
yeah. So Dorian Yates, 6 times Mr. Olympia, he's done it several times now. He's actually hosted some at Soltara, I know, in Costa Rica. And like he'd been trying to get me to do it so many times, and he'd introduced me to it. And I was like, you know what? I don't think there's anything in my life I need to change. My childhood was great. Everything's fine. But then so many other things popped up. Like I know Luke's story was on Aubrey's podcast recently, and I'd been speaking to Josh Trent about it, and quite a few other people, and it just kept popping up all the time. And then I just started listening, and then realizing, wow, there are so many areas in my life that I would like to change, explore, understand. And like for instance, coming over here, I'm such a numbers person. I have to be punctual. I have to be on time, and that can make you anxious. It can make you stressed, and I just need to get out of that. I need to chill a little bit. And I'm not saying I need to be late all the time, but there's various things. It's just a little thing that I'm just talking about exploration, whether it be relationships, how to handle that. And, so I'll be able to give a bit of better feedback maybe after December to see where that possibly goes.
Will you be going to Saltara?
No, I'll be going to Rhythmia.
Oh, word. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm in Aubrey Marcus's Fit for Service mastermind group, and the head of Saltara, he's in the group too.
Right. Yeah, that's where Dorian goes all the time, and that's what he suggested. But I got connected to the guys at Soltara, so Rhythmia, and I read about Gerard who owns a place down there. I read his book and all that sort of stuff, and there's a few things that I related to, and kind of just attracted me to that. It's my first time. I don't know what to really expect, but I like to expect the unexpected.
100%. Could you actually turn your mic towards?
Sure.
Like just rotate right here. Right
Yeah.
there, perfect. I've only been down to Spirit Quest in Peru, so I don't know about Saltara. I've had friends go there. They've had great experiences, but just like you said, having a calling to go down, I'm only able to recommend places where I've been.
Of course.
And to really understand that, I've been to Spirit Quest, and incredible facility with incredible healers, and their intentions are pure, and it's changed my whole life, man. And that's a big part of why I like to dig into the roots of things and really ground in that foundation, because I feel like that's where all of the nutrients are actually absorbed. And if you can hone in on the roots of what's going on, then the fruits are going to blossom from that, man. And to hear you talk about you have, an aspect in you that you want to be punctual, and you're a numbers guy, that could be a justification to behave a certain way. Oh, if I'm not understanding these numbers, then I'll be late. So this way for you to organize how to be an actual person that is on time, or professional, or career oriented, or whatever you want to call it, or just a good person, right? Because I'm late a lot. That's a thing that I deal with. And whether that makes me a bad person or not, I don't know. That's all subjective. But it's funny when we get into these inner workings of why we are okay being a certain way. And everybody's so different in that. And not only is everybody different, the reasons for being that way is so different. And the reasons from their unconscious childhood, or because they were late one time, they felt a certain way, so now they have to behave a certain way, so they never feel that feeling again. And that's where meditation for me is so huge, because it boils down to feeling what's being felt. And if you can really gain strength in feeling our emotions, or the grieving process I kind of mentioned to you earlier, then we're able to really learn who we are and how we handle certain scenarios, whether it's in the gym or anything, and to truly understand what you're capable and able to do. I'm not sure there's anything better than that, man. That is such an unbelievable understanding for people.
Yeah, and the thing is, like for instance, just with the time issue, I try not to pass judgment, and I'm pretty good at it. Not all the time. Depends if I'm stressed, I guess. When you're stressed, it's very easy to pass judgment. But, I've always looked at time, and I think it definitely came from my childhood. You wake up at a certain time very early, maybe help on the farm, then go to school, and then you're back and you do this. And, it's the same with, I race motocross, as I mentioned. You have to get up at a certain time to leave the door to get to the other side of the country to be them. Everything was a time. And I know that when I got into drugs and alcohol and I pulled myself out of it, I thought, okay, I'm an all or nothing character. I'm going to be so disciplined. I'm going to give this bodybuilding thing a go. I'm going to eat my meal within 3 hours. I didn't miss a meal for 18 years until I started fasting. 18 years, not a meal, because I put so much pressure on my shoulders. Cannot miss that meal, and I would go into a form of stress, anxiety, not a good person to be around if it looked like anybody was going to prevent me from getting to that meal at that particular time. I remember when I met my fiance just a few years ago. We'd been dating for a while, but then she showed up to Big City Coffee. She was running late. I'd gone ahead, ordered my food. I was halfway through it. She thought this was extremely rude. And I couldn't wrap my head around it because I'm thinking, you're the one that's late, yet I should be put out, and you're trying to make me feel bad? What's up with this? This is so odd. This is so strange. And I used to just think it was disrespectful of people because this is time I can't get back. People talk about money. Yeah, throw money away or something materialistic. Fine, do it, whatever. I don't care. That can come back. My time, it cannot. So if I'm late to something and I'm going to put that person out, I feel that I'm being disrespected. And I hold my word as being quite valuable. But, some people aren't so cognizant of things like that. And I'm trying to understand better. When I was living in India, people hated working with me there. Hated it. Because if someone didn't show up within a certain amount of time, I'm gone. See ya. And they'd get there and say, well, where are you? I've left. Because they'd maybe use the Mumbai traffic as an excuse. But yeah, if you've lived there for any amount of time, the traffic's always going to be bad. So you'd leave extra early. So, it's just the way that my mind works. And I just feel that, like I said, if I give myself an inch, I could possibly take a mile. So I don't want to give myself that inch. So this is some of the things that I'm trying to kind of get over and figure out and try to be a little bit more chilled out over things like this, because I know it can affect myself and my relationships because I can get all tensed up.
Well, it's such an ebb and flow process. Yeah. And you being that way has built you to be who you are. And understand, I've been really seeing this recently, how I'm not sure there's anything bad, because you being that way for X amount of years has brought you to a current level of awareness that now you can learn what to do or not to do. So now you're kind of in this crazy transitional period where you're seeing past behavior and you're seeing future potential. And being in that kind of moment is so crucial, because I believe that's where choice actually rests, is when we recognize what we've been doing and what we could be doing. Because there's so many things that we just do because we do. But to have that moment, whether you're out at a party and you're like, why the fuck am I even with these people? Those are the moments where I think choice really pop into our hands. Because how much of that was, I met this person through this person, and all of a sudden you're around 20 people that you hardly even know. And you call them friends or whatever, right? But that's cool, man. I love that you are in the aspect of awareness, and that these things are popping up for you when they are. And that you are the person who is able to even recognize these pieces of information that are popping up. It's one of the main things to even be aware of the awareness.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, in a day and age where people are just constantly distracted, they cannot eat a meal without reading or flipping through their phone or whatever. I think it's because we don't have the time, or we don't create the time to do nothing, to be silent and just listen to our brain and listen to our thoughts and get that internal feedback, because we're constantly putting earbuds in our ears. We're constantly wanting to be distracted. We go to bed with the phone. We wake up and go into panic attack and have to check the phone. And I think it's because of that distraction, there's very little awareness. And we just need to shut down. When I was speaking to Laird yesterday, people talk about going into nature to reconnect. And he says, no, that is connection. That is our connection. We disconnect. Don't have to go out there to reconnect. We should be reconnected all the time. Unfortunately, we've learned how to disconnect.
Laird is an extremely interesting person.
Fascinating. And so enthusiastic. And he is, he is one with nature the whole time. When he was in New York for a little while, he's climbing the walls. He was actually climbing the trees in Central Park. He had to get out of there. He's just so used to being part of the nature. He's always grounding himself, whether it be in the ocean or on the sand or at home. The guy very rarely wears a top. He's always, getting the sunshine, and he's very, very intuitive to the nature because he's a part of it.
Yeah, because he's a part of it, and he knows that, and he recognizes it, and he surrounds himself in environments that fuel that. If anybody hasn't heard his episode with Joe Rogan recently, I think it was a few months ago, he was on. Incredible podcast. Definitely check it out. Laird Hamilton. Yeah. Freaking amazing episode.
Yeah, I forget the name of it. He just had a documentary come out, either on Netflix or Amazon, like a year and a half, 2 years ago. It's phenomenal. I'd suggest people watch that, even if you're not into surfing.
For sure. I mean, surfers in general, man, their perspective on life is so incredible.
Yeah, and I was trying to get to the bottom of that yesterday. I was like, is it the magnesium? Is it the sun? Is it the grounding? Is it a combination of all these things? Because they're just so chilled. Mm-hmm. They're relaxed. They're a different being. There has to be, pun intended, something in the water.
That's funny. I have a buddy who surfs, and he talks about how when you get in the water and you're far enough away from land that you can literally feel the force of Mother Nature just push and pull, and you begin to realize how powerful this body of water, this planet really is. And to be humbled by that when you crash or when you could potentially become very hurt while surfing, it's got to create such a different kind of person, because professional surfers, they really are different people.
Yeah, for sure. And I definitely experienced that yesterday. The guy was absolutely fascinating. And I just love the enthusiasm, even though he's like 55. He's like 15, younger. Yeah. So much energy. He'll look you right in the eye, and he gives you your undivided attention, 100%, as if you've known him all your life. You grew up with the guy, and I just love that.
Special.
Yeah, very special, and I love everything about him. I'm not plugging his products here now, but I don't know if you've tried like his coffee, his superfood creamers, and it's called Laird's Superfood. It's like a non-dairy creamer that he's got with coconut. It's like coconut based, but it's all very natural. And these are all things that he did in Hawaii. And, his coffee is Swiss filtered if it's the decaffeinated, but it's mycotoxin free, very, very clean. And I absolutely love that. And just him talking about it yesterday, just, nothing was being filmed or recorded. He's so enthusiastic about health, so much. And he's not trying to do it to make a buck. He's not trying to do it to make money. It's like, I've been doing this since I was young, and people just love these concoctions I'd put together. So I was like, you should make it. You should create it. You should create a brand out of it. So that's what he did.
A person like that, who has acquired as much knowledge as he has does things for the right reasons. And it's to share ingredients that are actually healthy and helpful,
Yeah,
not harmful.
exactly.
And so I love hearing about that kind of stuff because it makes it way more realistic and way more grounded and down to earth for people to also achieve similar results.
Yeah.
And
you mentioned earlier about, you'd see people, especially in the entrepreneur space, showing, I don't know, their fancy cars and airplanes, houses that sometimes don't even exist based on selling a product. They want you to believe that, And because of that, people think that I'm doing really well financially because I got a supplement company, because I have a gym franchise. Like, you have no idea. No idea. I just barely paid my quarterly tax, honestly. And if you are doing things the right way for the right reasons, it's not for that. It's for a purpose much greater. It's to earn your residency on this earth, to fulfill and provide a value much more than what people pay for. Because karma's a bitch. You will get to the end of the days, and do you feel that you really think or say, you know what, I really wish I made more? Or you're going to say, I really wish I helped more. It's going to be the latter, no doubt. So when you are actually creating ingredients that are efficaciously dosed, which is very rare, it's fairy dusted, or they are ingredients that are, let's say, patented or organic, that's going to cost a lot more. But it's better than costing people's health, or at the price of people's health, and actually provide a value. Okay, not everybody needs a supplement. I understand that. Supplements only create like 3% anyway of that person's performance, the gain, the recovery, the health, whatever it is, whatever they're missing out of their nutrition. But when they do, they need to ensure it's not something that's going to lead to like adrenal fatigue, central nervous system breakdown, or anything further from that, because there's a lot of stuff that isn't regulated out there, and it's unfortunate, specifically here in the US, because they have the regulations in the US that allow more mycotoxins or mold spores in your grains, in your coffee, in your chocolate, in your wine. And if Europe says we can't have this because of that level, the US will say we will take it. So you have to be very careful here. Obviously we know about the hormones and glyphosate and things like that, but in the supplementation world as well, or in products that you'd never even think of, because we think of wine, we think of coffee, we think of grains. They're all pretty much the same, right? And they're far from it, far from it.
What are some of the biggest things that people should look out for, whether it's for supplements or coffee? I was just informed that, chains, I'll just call them coffee chains, how they don't regulate if there's pesticides on the beans, or unless they're truly, certified organic. And that to me is so interesting when you start to get into these things that are happening to our foods that we may not fully understand, and we just trust the organization, or they must be doing the best they can. They're a company. Why would they ever want to harm me? They have my best interest. And it's so funny to hear you talk about. I talk about this all the freaking time. It's much different from the inside of something. People walk up to me and they go, "Oh, bro, you must be killing it." But it's a different world when you're actually building something, when you're putting in the time, when you're delegating resources. And it's so important, man, for people to hear people like you speak up about that and truly share and be vulnerable and be open about what's happening on the inside, because it removes the veil for people and it makes it way more humanistic, man. So thank you, first of all, for being vulnerable and open and truly sharing what's going on. It's incredibly essential. But to get back on like the supplements or food in general, what should people be watching out for? What should they be looking for?
Well, I always say, go past what I say, because I may come across as biased. I like to just put education out there And then people can make their own unbiased decision whether they go and follow that program, eat that food, take a supplement, etc. But number one, this is the basic when it comes to a supplement. I always say look at the scoop size. Okay, let's say if you're looking at a pre-workout, a hydration drink, a protein, look at that scoop size and then see what's that made up of. Because if a product has like a 10-gram scoop, for instance, how on earth is that company going to fit all the effective dosages that are backed up with studies and research in that 10-gram scoop when, for instance, let's say 8 grams of citrulline have been proven to give you a positive effect. Now you've only got 2 grams left, and you've got flavoring that's got to go in there, you've got colors, etc. So always, that is the basic one. Then look at the ingredients that are in that product and look at the studies that back up with the research what is an effective dosage of that particular ingredient. Okay, let's say if it's carnosine, let's say it's caffeine, it's all beta-alanine, whatever. So then you can kind of add that up. So you can see if you're being undermined and they're like fairy dusting it or they're putting effective dosages. Then look at the sources of those ingredients. Are they fermented? For instance, with branched chain amino acids, and I know a lot of people didn't actually know this, and a lot of people still don't, but everybody within my industry as a supplement brand owner do. So like branched chain amino acids, glutamine, etc., are all derived from either human hair, bird feathers, or animal fur. The amino acids are extracted, usually using a harsh chemical or heat process to extract it. Where if you go fermented, for instance, that is not using heat, it's not using chemicals, it comes from a plant source like sunflowers. Sunflower could be a sunflower lecithin. So it's going to be much more natural for your body to take in, okay? And if you look at the caffeine that is in that product, what sort of caffeine is it? Is it synthetic? Is it created in a lab? Is it overdosed? Or isn't it organic? Is it an organic version? And what is the dosage of that? You know, because it's very easy, especially in the US, to take in a lot of too much caffeine, which can have a diuretic effect. So I always say, you know, just look at things, you know, has it got natural flavors? Has it got natural colors in it? Because everything has red, yellow 5, or red 40, all these artificial colors and dyes, which are generally banned in Europe. You know, if you look at, for instance, a McDonald's menu with the ingredients in the UK, for instance, compared to the US, completely different. Same as ketchup, same as Quaker's oats, the flavored oats, completely different. You know, so I always tell people to really look deep in that. You'll see, like as I'm talking about ketchup, the ingredient list will be like that in the UK. It'll be like that in the US. You know, there's high fructose corn syrup everywhere here.
How is that even possible?
The regulations aren't as strict here as they are in Europe. So like you said, with a coffee, yes, you need to ensure that it is an organic coffee to ensure that it doesn't have the pesticides or herbicides on there. But then you have to go a step further than that, because if it was stored in a vat and it wasn't dried, those beans weren't dried, now you have the possibility of mold spores. So you have to go another step further.
Damn.
You know, and if you are, some people don't have a sensitivity to mold toxicity. I do, Dave Asprey does, and it led to me having like 3 hours sleep a night. In 2015, I had to go to a clinic in Oldsmar, Florida for 6 weeks. I had the brain fry scan, and also had so many tests. I stayed there for 6 weeks, IV every day, colonic hydrotherapy 5 days a week, pretty much a vegan diet as I'm collating during that time. The doctor would have had me there for 6 months. If he had his way, I just couldn't be there for 6 months, but I just worked on it a lot with a lot of study. Anything that gives me the possibility of that exposure, I try to stay away from. So that's why I'm very strict upon these things. Now I get about 6 hours sleep. I do measure it. I usually have my Oura ring on, but I've got that charging at the moment. But I'm always conscious of that. Knowing the importance of the sleep will give me a better brain to be around, because I can be an ass without sleep, as anyone, but you don't necessarily recognize it. You know, you have to recognize and go, wow. So if I look at the content that I wrote about 5 years ago, I'm like, oh my God, who was that person? Can't relate to that person. All because stemming from things like mold toxicity, which leads to a lack of quality sleep.
What coffee do you drink?
I'll drink a few different coffees, but Lairds for the most part. I like Keon, that Ben Greenfield's, and Bulletproof is a good brand as well.
Do you know much about the Whoop watch?
Yeah, the Whoop. I used to wear a Whoop. So I know that all the guys, because I've been down to the UFC Institute, their sports institute there. They have all of those on the Whoop. I actually have a BioStrap being sent to me. It should be arriving this week. I just like the ring because I wear lifting straps all the time when I'm in the gym. I can get in the way a little bit. I'm not a watch wearer. And I like that you can put it on Bluetooth or airplane mode, I should say. So I don't have to have the Bluetooth penetrating me the whole time.
Yeah, we talked about the EMFs earlier.
Yeah. So I usually have like the Defender Shield all over my phone, and I have the Defender Shield blanket and stuff. So people, I do get some weird looks every now and again, but hey, if it makes me feel better, yeah, exactly. You know, especially when I travel as much as I do, I want to wear that blanket whenever possible.
Yeah. Damn. Kris, do you have any remaining words, anything that you want to share or feel compelled to talk about right now? Any last feelings?
But number one, I want to send out my appreciation to you for having me on this show and, helping me, introduce me to the flotation tanks, the flotation center there. But I'd say mainly for people out there that are just looking, let's say you're following like a bodybuilding lifestyle or a performance lifestyle, then really take a deeper dive into the health aspect. Because, for instance, I've done a few Ironman triathlon. At the finish line in the athlete's tent, they have pizza and burgers and cookies. That's not how the body is made to recover. You need to look at everything natural. And I'd say the main thing that you need to prioritize is not the vanity aspect or the time that is written on your Strava that you finish that particular day. It's what you feed yourself. Whatever you feed right now will fuel you in the future. You want abs? Forget about doing a load of sit-ups, or forget about the calories that you're taking in. Look at what those calories do. Are all those calories have a function? So look at the form of those calories. Is it humane raised? Is it wild caught? Is it organic? Is it locally grown? All of those things, that will get you your abs. That will get you a faster time on your Strava. But you need to change your pecking order. You need to look at the long-term goals by making those short-term changes. Because of course we have the long-term goals. We all want to get into the 70.3 World Championships. We want to get on a bodybuilding stage and take home first. We want that faster time. But if you make those short-term changes, those long-terms will come. But don't look at that Instagram and say, I want that result now, and this is what I'm going to do. All of these careers are very, very short-lived. Make them longer. Make your life an adventure that you will not have regret upon.
Beautifully well put. To feed off of that, what are some of the most important things that people can ingest or digest? If they're looking at that part of their life, what should they really be putting in their body?
Well, like I said, it should be, organic, humane raised, stuff like that. But it's all dependent on that person's goal. Like I've followed like the cyclical keto. I like that. I like intermittent fasting because I'm looking at longevity now, but I want to kick ass while I'm here too. But I understand the mTOR pathway, the IGF-1, AMPK. So how can I negate and benefit from both of these? Well, maybe I'm not going to fast every day. Maybe I'm going to fast 4 days a week. Maybe I'm going to follow not a strict keto diet, but a cyclical keto diet, and I'll break my fast at the end of the night. I'd say whatever you choose, whether it be carnivore, intermittent fasting, keto, there's one thing that they should all have in common, and they should be healthy. It should, like I like to have, I go keto, but I like to have fruits. I want the antioxidants. So I'll break that ketosis with a lot of fruits, maybe some grains before bed. By the time I wake up, because I'm an active person, I'm straight back into ketosis. Whether you're a vegan, vegetarian, just make sure that it is healthy. And obviously, if you cannot fill those voids with the food because the food is, over harvested, and there's a lot of malnutrition that we are ingesting because of that, then you may have to supplement. There's no doubt about it. But your blood reports, your food allergy tests, your hair follicle test to give you a global picture will tell you that.
It's beautiful, man.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much. That was an absolute pleasure.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah, until next time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
Appreciate
man.
it.